Hannah vowed that if God will give her a son, she was specific. She said, Lord, give me a son. And when you give me a son, that son, I will offer him up to you. I will give him to you. She made a covenant with God. Now, how many moms would do that? Lord, if you give me a son, magpapastor siya. It depends on his choice, right? Or, because basically this is how Hannah was doing it. That boy, if you give me that boy will serve. I'll make sure that boy will serve you, even if he doesn't want. You're going with me to the temple. Because eventually she brought Samuel after he was already, after she has weaned her off. Meaning to say that she's not breastfeeding him anymore. Oh, at the early age, then my 2-year-old son, all right, Eli, my 2-year-old, all right, he's gonna serve in the temple. Okay, bye, son. Just that's what he did. Any more children after, because that son came from God. So she was just saying, I'm gonna give him back to you, Lord. That's why, for example, when I do baby dedications, I would always say that parents, you don't own your child. God is the real owner of your children. All right? We are right now stewards of the lives of these people, of our children. And then when they're old enough to make a decision for themselves, that is the time we have done our part. But up to that time that they would need our nurturing, our protection, our care, our love, our attention. When they're not yet old enough to be on their own, that's the need for parents to be there by their children. But that's why most of us are adults who went out of our way, left our family, maybe, got a girl, got a guy, went with a girl, got married, etc. We matured. Be done over his or her life, not our will. For the parents, not your will. It's so easy for we call them the Asian mindset. We sort of like try to career path our own children. That's the Asian mindset. We never give them okay, what do they want to study? What do they want to pursue? Will they go for a 4-year college, university degree, or a 2-year degree, or let's say, what do you call that? Trades? Yeah. Well, we need who fix the plumbing in our houses, or our lights. All right. So the vow that God was waiting for Hannah was for her to give her son to God. Hannah's vows wasn't bargaining. Lord, if you will give me, Lord, if you will give this to me, I will serve you. Lord, if you answer my prayer, Lord, if you give her to me, if you give him to me, ganun ba yun? Parang we asking the Lord, give her to me. No. Lord, if you will give me, now, Lord, if you will give me that, I will serve. I will serve in the church every Sunday morning. She wasn't bargaining to God, but she was surrendering to God and say, God, hear my cry. The child came from you. So God honors what we release, not what we clutch tightly. So, for example, if we say that, Lord, I can't do this. I have this. I want to do that. I want to do that. But Lord, God, what is God's will? Why is it sometimes so hard for us to surrender to God? Because we just want to clutch on something and say, no, I think I need this is more important. I can't give this up. Let me ask you, if God will ask you to give up something you love for his purpose, how would we respond? What if God, like in some moment of silence, you're all alone, driving at home, bedtime, whatever, in a dream, God would speak to you, would you give this up to me? Would you surrender this desire or this prayer to me? What would be our responses? What would we say? No, of course not, Lord. Oh my good. Oh, no, of course not. Huh? What would we say? Oh Lord, ask for anything else but not that one. No, Lord, I can't. How would we respond if God would ask us to give up something we dearly love for his, but it's going to be for his purpose. Yeah. For his choosing his purpose more than our own personal desires. For the parents, I would just like to ask this: what might be, what might surrender look like in our parenting today? Because for young people, it's more of like their desires, their ambitions, the things that they want. For the older adults, for the parents, what might be surrender look like when it comes to our parenting? Is it surrendering to the will of God for the lives of our children, or my will be done, not God's will be done? I want my child to be this or that, to be. You know what I'm saying? We sort of like had that. We for the I'm talking to parents. We want this like directing our children because we know that we're saying we know better than them. How many parents would allow their anak? It's okay, just don't get. Therefore, God raised Samuel to fulfill God's purposes. Finally, becoming a mother. In 1 Samuel chapter 1, and Samuel means Samuel, and from his young age to the very time that God had to fulfill his plan for him to become the prophet of backtracking or forward moving. Samuel was praying and sleeping, and then all of a sudden he was awakened by a word, the voice that says to the priest named Eli, "Are you calling me?" "No, I'm not calling you. Go back to sleep." Then he went back to sleep. Samuel, me? "No, I'm not calling you. Go back to sleep." Samuel said there was another call. And what happened? If you hear the voice again, just respond by saying, "Here am I, Lord." Baby, voice of God. Old, no one of us be heard to a preaching or a preaching podcast or what God even can speak, in young or too old to hear God. But it happened that Samuel was young to really hear the audible. I said it before, right? So I was praying for a girlfriend. I was praying for a girlfriend. And I said, "God, I pray that you would give me a girlfriend." I never had a girlfriend, Lord, in my life. I want your will for my life. And I went and prayed and fasted. I went to we'll call it the prayer mountain and fasted. Lord, but I did not just go there for the girlfriend. I just said, "God, I want your will for my life." And God gave me Genesis 1:26. It says, "It's not good for a man to be alone." Oh, I wasn't flipping through the Bible. It's like, "Oh, Lord, surely goodness and mercy." Surely. No, I wasn't looking. But I was just like, yeah, surely goodness, mercy. You get that? Okay. But I was not flipping through the Bible. I was just, okay, I said, God was saying, I want to speak. So God directly, it was real. God directed me to Genesis 1:26. God could bring me through anything from the 66 books of the Bible, right? But God led me to Genesis 1:26. Why am I standing before you? All right. So it says that it's not good for a man to be alone. I will make him a helper suitable for him. So at that time, I was already praying for my wife at that time. But she wasn't my wife. So I was already praying for her. Lord, why is it every time I see her at church, like I would lead worship and I would see her, that's like, I would just turn away. It's like, God, I'm distracted. Come on, Lord. I would lead worship three services in a Sunday, and she would be at the very, very, very back. And I was like, Lord naman, oh, it's si Lord naman, distracting, oh. No, just kidding. So I said, what are you doing? The emotion is growing in my heart. What is her role in my life? You know? And then I said, God, I want to hear from you. Why is this? It's growing. The feeling is growing, and that I would lead the Bible study. Or it's a loss, and because I'm a kuya, Romy, kuya lang. So zone, kuya zone. Feeling to you, I surrender to you lahat, Lord. I take it all away. God, let your kingdom come. Let your will be done. And then one night, as many years forward, no, not many years, like a few months. Can we go out for a time to talk? I got something to share with you. Our first date was I asked her mom's permission to if we could go out and meet her from work and stuff like that. And then we went to this I think it's Angelino's, the restaurant. Yeah, Angelino's. Yeah, you know that. I remember that. And then I know the scene. And then I asked, so why? She was asking me, why did you ask me out? And I said, because I want to say that the Lord spoke to me that you will be my wife and I want to marry you. And she was like, and my wife, she was like, she wasn't amazed. She was like this. Then I brought her home. Finished the meal, I brought her home. But she gave me the last question. How did you know that I was the one? She asked me that question. How did you know that I was the one? And I said to her, as sure as when I heard the call of God on my life. Then she started praying. So I said to her, we will not be talking to each other for the next 6 months. No, nothing. We'll not be talking. Distance test, time test, not seeing each other, not saying hello, hi, hi. When I see her at the church, I would move away. I would not sit beside her or anything. Then I had a dream. And the dream was, I was awakened from a dream. I saw this man, and I was like, of course, a little taller than me, and I ran to him, and I embraced him. And when I embraced him, I was like, my head was here. So the man started kissing me. 1, 2, 3 times. And every time the man was kissing me on the head, the first one was, be humble. The second word, the word was, I'm doing a work in Mina. And the third word was, call your friend Kathy. So those three things, then I woke up and I said, what is that? The funny thing is, the voice was not a stranger's voice, but a voice of someone that I knew, someone who's dear to me, that I know this voice. And I felt like this person who spoke to me was someone that I'm, in a relationship. It was a voice that I'm so familiar. And then I remember, my sheep knows my voice, and the voice of a stranger I will not follow. So, and this must be the Lord. So I talked to some of my friends, godly friends, and my bone, that must be the Lord. So why be humble? Because at that time, I was preparing myself to be a missionary. So I need to humble myself by asking people to support me. I was raising my funds, $1,000 a month. And it's so humbling to ask people for money. So I was in Bible school. We have this letter, I have to present it to people. Would you support me for 2 years as a missionary in China? So the Lord saying, be humble. So, because like the Lord, I was struggling, And then I'm doing a work in Mina because when she said, but that time, you haven't said. She has not said yes or anything to me. I didn't know that God was doing something in her life, but God was already working. All right, or separately. So the third voice was, call your friend Kathy. Kathy would go back to be a missionary to China. So, and confirm with her, because she said she will support me when I become a missionary, something like that. But what is my point? I heard the voice there speaking to me. What else did God spoke? Hannah being just a mother. Because Hannah being just a mother. Because God wanted that baby who will become Samuel, who will become a judge in Israel, who will become a prophet, he will be eventually anointing the future king, the first king Saul of the nation of Israel, as King Saul of the nation of Israel, and then who later on after 40 years, anointed David, the next king. As I close with a simple message from the life of Hannah, after the miracle of a son, Hannah said, in chapter 2, verses 1 to 10, I'll just quote from the verses. Then Hannah prayed, my heart from the verses. Then Hannah prayed, my heart rejoices in the Lord. The Lord has made me so. Now I have an answer for my enemies because in the Lord has made me so. Now I have an answer for my enemies because I rejoice because you have rescued me. So Hannah started talking and singing and prophesying and making this declaration before the Lord. There is no one holy like the Lord. There is no one besides God. There is full and God is great. 4 things. Number 1. 4 things. Number 1, God hears our prayers even through tears. Crying from the bitterness of our souls, emptying. God hears our from the bitterness of our souls, emptying. God hears our. If we surrender something to God and say, God, not my will be done. Here's my desire, but God, not my will, but your will be done. God will always honor and respect surrender. And say, God, we give it to you. Honor and respect surrender. And say, God, we give it to you. Lord, take over. God uses his answers to accomplish purpose for far bigger than us. In other words, if I would put this in a capsule form, is on time. I would like to call the worship team. Maybe today you're carrying a Hannah-sized burden. I don't know how many of us are carrying a Hannah-sized kind of a burden. Would you please close your eyes and bow your heads, please? With nobody looking around, where are we in the plan and purpose of God? Will you be someone who will pour your heart to God like Hannah and say, God, I want nothing but your will, but if you will answer my prayer, this will be my vow. This will be my surrender. Can we trust the Lord to turn our mourning into joy? Are we willing to surrender something that we have been holding? It could be a desire. It could be, a prayer in our hearts that we have been carrying for a long time. We've been clutching so tightly. But are we willing to say, God, all I want is your will? Are you here to also believe that when the Lord answers your prayers, it's not just be affecting that temporary moment, but it will make an impact for the generations to come. Please don't give up on prayer. If you feel like the prayer is something that you can say, oh, I can give this up, well, might as well. But if it's something that you want, you can't, you're saying, look, because I'm believing that God will speak. I'm believing that God will answer. I'm believing that God will hear the cry of my heart. Hold on to that. But more than anything, what's so important is, have we surrendered our lives to Jesus? That all that we want, Him as our Master, Him as our Lord, His will be done, His kingdom come, and His will be done, not ours. As you are contemplating this morning, this afternoon, I would like us to just respond to the Lord. Shall we all rise to her life? It's not about the time that saying, oh, I don't know when will God answer my prayer. But He's always on time. His timing is not our timing. His ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. And I would like us to come before the Lord this morning. Would you please lift up your hands and say, and I'm going to pray. Lord Jesus, I pray for your people this morning.